All right, welcome back to the weekly fantasy basketball Q&A over here at Rotoworld. I am Noah Rubin, and once again, joined by the great Adam King. Most cool people call him Kingy. You can find him on Twitter at AdamKing91. Before we get into any questions, we'll give everybody time to drop in a few more, let them kind of roll in. But Kingy, it didn't take long for OG Anunoby to kind of get run into the ground by Tom Thibodeau. We know that he is, and again, this is a joke, just in case I'm not actually insinuating that Tom Thibodeau intentionally drove OG Anunoby into the ground, but he's expected to be out another 2 to 3 weeks after already missing. Goodness, it's been like a month already. The last time he played was actually 1 month ago today. So it's already been a month, and it's probably going to be another 2-3 weeks. Are you still holding him in leagues that you have him rostered?
Well, I'm reevaluating. I was hoping I wasn't expecting him back this week. Hoping for maybe next week, but if they're saying 2 to 3 weeks, probably looking at 3 weeks. Probably depends when my fantasy playoffs start. I think this is probably a bit situational. I've got him in. I'm trying to think. I know I've got him in at least 2 leagues, and I'm probably going to make the playoffs in at least one of those. I also have Trae Young in both those teams. So my IR spot, I do have IR spots, but it's going to be tough. I'm going to have to drop one of them. Trae Young, I think, is probably a drop in a lot of leagues because he's reevaluated in a month. And for anyone that listened at the start of the season, their fantasy playoffs probably end in just over a month. So you're not really getting him back for the playoffs at all. So, I think if you have to move on from OG, you probably should.
Yeah, and you said it's situational. It depends on when your playoffs are. And like you said, if you did the right thing and it's going to end kind of late March around then he's probably a drop because he probably isn't going to be back until mid-March. I mean, they said the report from Shams Charania was that 2 to 3 weeks he'll be back on the floor. So that would be sometime between, like, they have a game March 14th against Portland and a game March 21st against Denver, sometime around then. But fantasy playoffs could be over by then. And are you really holding him with the, chance that maybe he plays limited minutes? Actually, if he plays, Tom Thibodeau's not going to limit his minutes, but plays in your championship week. Like, if you probably need to drop him with the hopes that you're adding somebody that can help you get there. And I don't know, it feels like it is very, very situational, like you said. But that does mean that Dante DiVincenzo should be a pretty safe option moving forward. I mean, he's been playing incredibly well recently. Do you think, I'm assuming he's probably picked up everywhere that he would be streamed. Is he a guy that you think can be kind of a league winner at this point?
I don't know about league winner maybe, but certainly a difference maker. And he should be rostered everywhere, I would assume. And I have him in one of those teams that I have OG. So I guess that's makes me feel a little bit better about myself. He was good yesterday. He'd had a couple of, less than ideal offensive games, but he's still been getting defensive stuff. He's getting a handful of assists. He's hitting a lot of threes. So I think, and if you look at his minutes back when he was going off, when he was going for 30 a game, and he was up around the 40-minute mark, and we know that's a tips thing. We're not really surprised by that. But the last couple of games, he's been at about 32 minutes, and I feel much better, despite the fact that 40 minutes obviously allows him more time to do stuff on the court. It opens him up for soft tissue injuries and things like that, which he had. He was dealing with a hamstring, I think, before the All-Star break. So I would much rather see him playing 32, 33 minutes than 40. So if you do have him and you've noticed that little trend, I wouldn't be too concerned. I'd actually be a little bit I'd reassure that this probably means he stays healthy and doesn't have to miss games again.
Right. And then on the West Coast, the other kind of like somewhat major news, maybe not really major news, but impactful for tonight anyway. Paul George is going to miss a second straight game. And previously, when he had been out or Kawhi Leonard had been out, they had started Amir Coffey. But for this last one, Norman Powell got the start, played 37 minutes, scored 21 points with 5 triples. Kind of a guy that is basically just a points league guy, doesn't really give you much outside of points and threes in category leagues, so he's not quite as impactful there. But is he a guy that you would be willing to stream? I mean, there's 11 games tonight, so maybe that impacts a little bit. He's 38% rostered on Yahoo. Is he a guy that you'd be interested in streaming tonight?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, he's really just points and threes,
right?
Doesn't do a lot else, so he is very specialized. But look, I mean, even with Paul George healthy, he's someone to consider for streaming. So I think with George out, he's certainly there's certainly a chance he's in your best 8 or 10 or however many active spots you have. If he's available, I mean, we don't know. There's no word on this Paul George thing if this is going to be a long-term thing. I doubt it is. I think the Clippers are just in a position to be able to manage him. If Powell's available and you just need some points and threes, give him a look. And he might be a guy that you stream, but you end up sort of holding him for a week or something until Paul George is back.
Yep. All right, we will. And actually, this one has just happened with Karl Anthony Towns isn't going to play tonight, which I need to adjust my lineup and industry pickup now because I have him starting. But Cat is out. And if I'm not mistaken, Rudy Gobert is questionable after missing their last game. Okay. Because I remember writing the blurb, and I just need to double check before I just. Yeah, so Rudy Gobert is questionable. Cat's out. Kyle Anderson started in place of Gobert in their last game. I would assume that if Gobert is back, Cat's out, Kyle Anderson just stays in the starting lineup. But in the off chance that Gobert remains out for another game, because he did practice yesterday. Chris Finch said he looked good. Assuming Gobert's back, that's just going to be a quick swap. Kyle Anderson's still going to be worth streaming. But if they're both out, I mean, assuming this is Naz Reid's season and he would end up in the starting lineup, both guys would be worth starting even on an 11-game day. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think even if only one of them is out, then it's probably Kyle Anderson. If they're both out, I actually think Reid will be better than Anderson because, I mean, we know Reid, if he plays 30 minutes and on a team that really doesn't have a lot of offense outside of Anthony Edwards, Conley is not a huge offensive threat. McDaniels is not. Anderson is not. So someone's got to score. It's probably going to be Naz Reid. So, yeah, keep an eye on that. I think Gobert, it sounds like he's trending towards being available. But, I think Kyle Anderson and Naz Reid are both names to watch. And I think Anderson, is he coming off close to a double-double? I feel like he had a pretty good game.
I'm going to pull that up. He had 12 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists in 31 minutes. And that was his other starts. He's been pretty solid. He only has 2 other starts this season. He's rostered in 23% of Yahoo leagues. Naz Reid is rostered in 54%. So Kyle Anderson is going to be much easier to find on your waiver wire. And again, if Gobert is playing, then he's probably going to be the one to start alongside Gobert and be probably a better option than Naz Reid. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, breaking news right here live during the Q&A. It doesn't get much better than that. All right, so we'll start. Actually, before we get into the questions, we will hit on Trae Young because that's actually major news that didn't happen today, but has happened within the last couple of days. Will be reevaluated in 4 weeks, which does not mean he'll be back to playing. It means that he will be reevaluated then. And I'm assuming the reevaluation may end up having more to do with what the Hawks record looks like than what his finger looks like. But we'll have to see about that because they're, I think, you know what? I'm going to pull up the standings as I'm saying this because I think that they're about 2 games ahead of the Nets right now for 10th place. And they are 3 games, because they won their last game. That makes sense. So 3 games ahead of the Nets, 2 games behind the Bulls for 9th. and 3.5 games ahead of Toronto. So if the Hawks start to slip a little bit without Trae Young, which, they still have DeJounte Murray, Bogdanovich, and Onyeka Okongwu's out as well, but they were able to beat Orlando without Paolo Banchero in their last game. But if the Hawks start to slip, the Nets or Raptors pass them, the Hawks are out of the play-in. Trae Young may not suit up again this season. If they are able to stick around and are still holding on to a play-in spot, I don't think that Trae Young would just continue to sit out if there's a chance that they play in the postseason. So with that being said, DeJounte Murray obviously receives a pretty massive bump in fantasy value. He almost had a triple-double in their first game without Trae. Is there anybody else in Atlanta that you'd be looking to stream based off of Trae Young not being available for probably the rest of the season?
Not really. I think Bogdanovich he'll start. He's a winner, but he should be rostered anyway. He's had a good season.
Right.
DeJounte Murray, he'll just go off. Deeper leagues, maybe we're watching Kobe Buffkin just to see if they do end up going down that path of we don't care. The Memphis route, then maybe they start rolling him out. And I don't know if he'll start, but 25 minutes. They drafted him, so they want to see what he looks like. So maybe in deeper leagues it's him, but I don't think in 12s there's anyone really worth streaming. DeAndre Hunter, but he's probably rostered in most leagues. So I think players certainly get a bump and have to be doing stuff, but they should be rostered already.
Yeah, and DeAndre Hunter has been just strictly 9 cap value, just outside the top 100, rostered in 50% of Yahoo leagues. Last 2 weeks, second round value, 23rd on Basketball Monster, shooting a higher field goal percentage. The free throws have been much improved this season. He's 82.6% last year. He's 90.4 this year. It's kind of that Harrison Barnes mold of just kind of solid across the board, not great in any specific category that allows his numbers to look really good, though he has averaged 20 points per game with 2 threes the last 2 weeks. So if he can keep that up with a steal per game, 5 rebounds, which is where he's been at, then I'd say a guy that's definitely worth rostering. But like you said, he's 50% rostered in Yahoo leagues, probably rostered in a good bit of 12-team leagues. So,
and it'll be interesting to see which direction those teams you mentioned go. Brooklyn, Atlanta, Toronto. I think Brooklyn don't even own their pick. I think it's going to Houston. So they have no reason to tank, but they're just not good. And I think the Raptors is protected. Is it top 6, top 5?
Top 6 protected in the Jakob Poeltl trade.
Yeah. So they want to suck. So they might. It's tough to see Toronto doing it, but they want to lose games. They want to be inside the top 6 there to try and keep their picks. So they could go one way. Brooklyn, who knows? And then Atlanta, I think, have their pick as well. So, there could be a little bit of movement there at the bottom.
Yep. All right, we will get into some of these questions now that we have a few to answer. How do you rank these 3 in a ESPN points league, which basically is probably more similar to category leagues in the sense that field goal percentage, free throw percentage, those things matter. Hopefully there's no extra fun caveats to consider as well, such as double doubles, offensive rebounds, technical fouls, whatever you want to do, because it's fun. But Keontae George, Sar Thompson, and DeAndre Hunter, how would you rank them, Kingy?
Well, I think if I see the word points league, I would immediately go to Hunter there, just because I think he can go off for 20, 25 points and has been. So he is probably at the top of that list. And I think with Trae out, probably just solidifies his role and his usage moving forward. So I'd probably have him at the top. And then I'd probably have Keontae George and then Sar Thompson.
And I'm in one ESPN points league. And I have freaking Trae Young, and he is on their can't drop list still. And so I have been trying the past few days to drop him for DeAndre Hunter, who has been sitting on the waiver wire there. But I can't because Trae Young is on their can't drop list. You know who else is not on their can't drop list that I have on my team? Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Paul George, not on their can't drop list. Joel Embiid, not on their
Right.
can't drop list. Trae Young, can't drop him. Yeah. So hopefully they change that before anybody else gets smart and adds him. But yeah, I would also agree DeAndre Hunter, and then probably Keontae George and then Asar Thompson for me. Asar Thompson, I think, is pretty, not strictly category leagues, but much better in category leagues because of that defensive value. And DeAndre Hunter, like you said, he's probably the best scorer for the rest of the season among these three. 20 points per game the last 3 weeks. So, yeah, I think I would lean DeAndre Hunter as well. All right, who would you start tonight? Jonathan Kuminga against the Wizards, Keontae George against the Hawks, or I'm assuming Duncan Robinson against Portland?
Yeah, I would assume it's him. Look, I streamed Robinson last night and expecting 20 points, maybe 4 or 5 threes, and I got 11 assists. So here we are, 11 assists from Duncan Robinson. Don't expect that again. Jimmy's back tonight. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, he is.
But they are still without a few guys. Is Tyler Hero out tonight? Do we know?
I believe Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier are both still out, but I can confirm.
Obviously, yeah, they were both out last night. But having woken up 20 minutes ago, I haven't checked the injury report yet.
Actually, they haven't submitted their injury report yet, so I'm assuming that's going to come out really, really soon. That
would probably determine here. If they're both out, I think Robinson is in the discussion. As would be DeLon Wright. If you saw DeLon Wright, what he did last night, I'm glad I added him in industry pickup. It was nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess looking at this, my gut reaction is probably Kuminga against the Wizards. So I'll stick with that. I'll go Kuminga probably, and then let's wait and see what the Miami injury report looks like before determining. Because prior to last night, Robinson had been shooting the ball really well and getting you 5, 6 3-pointers a night. So
yeah, you're not going to probably get another.
If you look at the opposition here, Wizards, Hawks, Blazers, like there's going to be no defense played in any of those games. So
that's true.
All these guys could potentially go off.
You're not going to get another 1 for 11 performance from the floor from Duncan Robinson at the same time that it's point Duncan out there with 11 assists. Just not at all. But also with Jimmy Butler back, bare minimum, that's going to prevent Duncan Robinson from getting those assists. However, he's probably going to shoot better. So I would go Kuminga. I think that he is probably the safest option just to get value. I don't think I would go Keontae George. I think Duncan Robinson, I'm probably still just the fact that Jimmy Butler's back, I'm probably not going to stream him unless I am desperate for threes because Kuminga's probably not going to get as many of those. But yeah, Kuminga's been really solid for like the last, I don't know, month, 2 months.
Yeah.
So hopefully, yeah, I mean, the minutes have been going down a little bit with Draymond kind of back and playing a larger role. But yeah, I'm still going with Kuminga, I think. And that'll be the Jordan Poole, Draymond Green matchup for the first time. So hopefully that doesn't – I don't think it's going to impact Jonathan Kuminga at all, but I know that I've seen people hyping that up on Twitter, so that'll be fun. All right, drop 1 in 9 cat, also from Thomas. So if he's not streaming Keontae George or Jonathan Kuminga, he's talking about dropping him along with Kelly Olynyk. Which one would you be dropping?
Well, usually it would be Olynyk.
Right, but with the Pirtle.
But if Pirtle misses time here, which, as I said, the Raptors don't really want to be winning, so there's no reason to roll him out there. If Olynyk starts... I don't know if he starts, but if he plays 28, 30 minutes a night, it's not Olynyk because he could be the best of these three in starters minutes. Drop 1. Again, I'd wait to see what's the word on Pirtle is. If Pirtle isn't, if it's sort of day to day and he's going to be back, it's probably Olynyk. If he's out for 2 weeks, it's probably Keontae George.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. we've seen Kelly Olynyk be really good in fantasy. And so if Pirtle's out, then he's going to be really good. But if Pearl's back, then Olynyk. And just like we were just talking about with the last one, we'd prefer Kuminga tonight, and probably Kuminga moving forward over Keontae George. Hey guys, thoughts on Trey Mann and Buddy Hield the rest of the season in a 10-team 9-cat head-to-head league? I mean, I guess not thoughts on either or, but thoughts on both and how you'd view them. I think Buddy Hield is, I don't know, who do you think is the better option moving forward?
I don't know. It just comes down to LaMelo Ball, I think.
So past 2 weeks, Buddy Hield has been like 120th per Basketball Monster. 15 points, 3.8 threes, 5.3 assists, 42.3% from the floor. And Trey Mann has been 58 during that same stretch. 12.5 points, 5 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 2 steals, 2.3 threes, 43.2% from the floor. But like you said, I think it does come down to LaMelo a good bit.
Yeah, if you're looking rest of season, as of right now, I think, I think they're both worth holding in a 10-team league. But if you had to drop one, or if this is maybe you're looking at a trade or something, I think Hield is probably a little bit safer, just because we've seen him do it before. We've seen him put up sustained periods of top 70, top 60 value. Embiid's not coming back anytime soon. But if you want to take a bit of a chance, I guess it's probably Trey Mann. But yeah, I don't know. I think Hield probably slightly.
Yeah, I would go Hield, even with the idea that LaMelo may not return for the rest of the season. I think maybe it does kind of depend a little bit on the categories, in the sense that Trey Mann's getting you 2 steals per game over the last 2 weeks, and Buddy Hield is not getting you like really any steals. But rather have Buddy getting more points, more threes, and I believe actually more assists, which don't really expect that with Trey Mann being kind of the point guard over there. But yeah, I think I'd go Buddy Hield. I feel better about his role being kind of safer. But actually because I know DeAnthony Melton's back. How much has that kind of impacted? I mean, it hasn't really impacted Buddy Hield's minutes much. So yeah, no, I still think I feel pretty good about Buddy Hield.
Yeah, and I know, as you said, I know that Melton's back, but I'm not convinced that they want to be giving him big minutes. So I don't think it impacts your Hield a little bit, but not much.
Yeah. All right. Thoughts on Claxton rest of the season? Someone's getting frustrated with his recent production. Should I buy low, or should I be worried about a shutdown in a 10-team, I'm assuming this is the same 10-team 9-cat head-to-head league, while punting free throw percentage, which would fit in with Claxton? Should we be worried about Claxton getting shut down? I think this kind of goes back to what you were saying. Like, the Nets don't have their own first. I don't see a reason for them to shut down anyone at this point, or later on in the season. So I'm not worried about him getting shut down. But do you think it's a good buy low opportunity?
Yeah, I think so. Depending what you deem as buy low.
Yep.
I think he's probably, I don't know, top 50 rest of the way. So if you can get him for a top 70 or top 80 player, then maybe. I don't know. Like, maybe you could throw out I don't know who's on your roster, but Jordan Poole, who's been playing well the last couple of games and has that scoring upside. I'd certainly take Claxton over Poole, but if the manager's getting frustrated and maybe wants some points or whatever, maybe something I trade like that. But yeah, top 70, top 80, I would, but otherwise, yeah, I don't think he'll get shut down, but I also don't think that the Nets, like, hopefully they realize they're not a good team, and so they don't push him. And he is no stranger when it comes to injury. So, I'm not worried about a shutdown, but if he does get injured, then they could just yank him and give him 2 weeks off.
Yep. Yeah, I think it is last 2 weeks, he has been 1/12th according to Basketball Monster with just 8.8 points per game. So yeah, I think it is a good, like, they're the best time to potentially buy low because over the past 2 months they have him 63rd on Basketball Monster. So yeah, what does buy low look like? I don't know. I was gonna look and see, who's kind of ranked around him for the last 2 weeks, but it's like Marvin Bagley, Fred VanVleet, Paolo Banchero are the three guys below him. So I'm like, wouldn't be looking to trade Paolo or Fred VanVleet. But I mean, Bol is 106 last 2 weeks. So
yeah, I'm just pulling up the game log here too and looking at his production because I don't have him anywhere. And yeah, he hasn't been great, but they've also had a lot of blowouts. So his minutes have been down. If you look at the games that were competitive, he's typically up 30 minutes. So that's probably potentially part of the reason why he's underperforming. But as I said, the Nets aren't good, so they're probably going to continue to get blown out in certain games. So there's certainly a trend here, but it's not necessarily a trend that's going to stop.
Yep. All right. Any updates here on Scoot, Pirtle, or Denny? Well, I don't think there has been one on Pirtle. Scoot, I don't think there's been an official update. He's still out tonight. And then Denny, I'm assuming if this is being asked, so he's questionable tonight. So I haven't seen any updates further than that. I don't know if you have.
No, I think because what Scoot's dealing with an adductor. But I mean, yeah, Portland want to see him out there. So I think of those three, if they were all, in a perfect world, he's probably the one that comes back the soonest. Pirtle, yeah, look, as I said, Toronto don't need him out there. I think he is officially questionable tonight, but yeah, we'll see. And then, yeah, again with Denny Avdia, the Wizards are trash, so they don't need to run him out there either. So, yeah, no updates, but I would think of the three of them, Scoot would be the one most likely to where the team would have some incentive to actually have him out there.
Yep. All right, and actually, before we get on with any questions, this just happened. More breaking news here live on the Q&A. The Hornets are expected to sign Poku. So Woj just tweeted that out. So I don't know how that fits in. I think that is just off the top of my head, that's like a good situation for him to see minutes because he wasn't getting any in OKC. Yep. So we will see Poku playing basketball for the final month or so of the season. But silly season hero potential right there, just off the sense that they're going to want to see if he's worth keeping around heading into next season. I'm not saying he's a guy to add, but I think he's a guy to keep an eye on, I would imagine, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. If he's playing minutes, let's see. I wouldn't be running to grab him just based on the news that he's signing with them. And in theory, there's a opportunity for him here because Grant Williams has been playing well, Nick Richards has been playing well, but yeah, I mean they don't have a lot of too. Yeah, so there's potential here. I think I'd certainly just keep your finger on the add button, but I wouldn't do it yet. But if he comes out and plays 20 minutes, then maybe because he is a sort of a bit of a Chet light, very light. But he can get you threes and blocks and rebounds. Interesting combination of stats. So, yeah, a situation to monitor, I think. And
they're starting to build out Thunder East in Charlotte with Trey Mann and Micic just coming over at the deadline. Now they are adding Poku. We'll see if that – I don't think that trend would continue, but would be kind of funny if they kept adding former Thunder players. But I think that is just an interesting situation to kind of monitor because I know that, there's a good bit of people that like him in the fantasy community that, he hasn't really played much at all this season, got cut, so it didn't look good for him. But I think it's a good situation for him to at least see if he's still worth, keeping an eye on, and a dynasty league still worth kind of keeping around.
Yeah, keep an eye on Dr. A's Twitter feed because he's a Poku guy. So he may tweet something out in the next hour about poker.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to seeing if he gets there. All right. Another one here. Should I stash Kongwu in my IL for the playoffs, which is weeks 20 through 22? What is it? Week 18 of the fantasy basketball season right now?
Should be in most leagues.
Okay, so that's a good playoff time right there. 10 teams, still the punt free throw percentage one, which Kongwu's been pretty good from the free throw line. Off the top of my head, he is, but I feel like
I think he's decent, but he's not. I mean, he's not elite.
80% this season, yeah.
Should I stash him? I don't know. What is he reevaluated in 10 days or something? So,
something like that.
Probably due to be reevaluated. Maybe the end of this week. Which end of week 18, and you've got week 19, week 20. Look, I mean, if you've got an IL spot open and you can stash him, I think there's a chance he does come back. I think if you're in a position to be able to do it, at least until we get a reevaluation, have we got a date?
It was, I was pulling it up, reevaluated in 2 weeks from February 24th. So that would be March 9th.
Okay, so that's sort of the end of next week. Yeah.
I mean, it would be right before this fantasy playoffs start. So
it would be, yeah. So, I mean, if he's reevaluated and they say he's on track and we'll give him a weekend or something to sort of get his conditioning back and then he's good to go. Then, maybe. But I also don't, because Capella's there, I don't think he's going to come back and be a league winner or anything like that either. So, if he was going to come back and start and play over Capella, then yes. But it's, I don't know. It's probably a 50-50 situation. If you're in a comfortable position and you want to just stash him and see what happens, then by all means do that. But I also don't think if you don't do it and someone else does, I don't think you'll regret it.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, if you're able to, if you have nobody else sitting in there, sure. But if you're, I guess, bumping somebody else out of the IL, because that's kind of a interesting, who is that specifically? But looking at it, I think the two factors are Clint Capella is healthy and Trae Young is not. And while DeJounte Murray is still really good at, getting assists, setting up centers for easy shots, I mean, he's not Trae Young. So it's a good playmaker, not one of the best in the league, plus splitting minutes with Capella probably coming off the bench. I think he's not a must add or must stash, though if you have the spot, you might as well.
Yeah, I agree. Lots of Charlotte Thunder tweets coming out. I'm just scrolling through now, so lots of people are on board with Charlotte. Still nothing from Dr. A though.
And it looks like I missed another Thunder player, Davis Bertans. So that's interesting.
Oh yeah,
so a lot of them. Would you drop Trey Mann for Kelly Olynyk in a 12-team 9-cat league? Obviously. And it says it here, assuming Pirtle will miss some time. We don't know for sure, but I think if he does, then Olynyk's obviously going to have a ton of value. Would you drop Trey Mann for him just under the assumption that Pirtle is going to be sidelined?
It's an interesting one. I think if we knew that Olynyk was going to play 30 minutes and Mann was going to play 30 minutes, I'd go Olynyk every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if this is something you can decide after we get word on Jakob Poeltl, then I would do that. But if you sort of need to make that move now, assuming that Poeltl will miss time, it's probably a little bit risky, just given we have no update at all. And I don't know. I always go back to that season when Olynyk was top 20 over the last month or whatever it was, because we know he can do it. If he's given. If Toronto just go, Poeltl's out for 3 weeks, Olynyk is starting and playing 32 minutes, then he could be a league winner. I don't think Mann has that upside. So, if you can take a bit of a risk, I would probably go Olynyk here. But if you need to just take the safe route and you just need someone who's actually got that role, then I'd stick with Man.
Yeah, no, I like that. Assuming if Pirtle's out, then yes, Olynyk. But yeah, probably waiting to see what the actual evaluation is probably the safest option here. Couchad said that he has a few fun ones for us, so we can do some fun ones here. And I know that this is something that we've talked about and something that you have already, I know your opinion on it. So the 2024, 2025, looking ahead to the draft, is Wemby a guy that you would draft in the top 3, considering that Luka and Jokic and SGA would also be guys drafted in that range?
So do we need my response? I think
I'd love your response.
No, my answer is yes. I think, as I said, I've already started my ranks, and that's because I'm probably not going to get into many of my fantasy playoffs, so I'm annoyed. So I'm already looking to next season. And I have Wemby in my top 3 with Jokic and SGA. And I look, honestly, looking at, as I said, ahead to next season, if I'm in a league and I've got the number 1 pick, I would probably take Wemby next season in at least one league, just because I think he has clearly the most upside. I think I saw a stat yesterday. There was a tweet that came out, and he's already had 4 stat lines that no one in history has ever had, and he's played 52 games. He's reached, and there's a lot of articles coming out about how the game has slowed down for him, which we knew was going to happen. We just didn't know it was going to happen this quickly. So, if you're a little bit of a gambler and you're happy to take a risk next season, I can certainly make a case for Wemby at number 1. But he absolutely goes top 5, probably top 3 in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, I think it is kind of like the risk factor, but in 9-cat value, which is probably inflated a little bit by his ridiculous blocks, he's 10th this season on Basketball Monster, first over the last 2 weeks, and he's still he's shooting 45.3% from the floor the last 2 weeks, and he's been number 1. Like, that can improve, that can go up. So is he going to keep averaging 3 steals per game? No, but maybe. So, yeah, I think there's got to absolutely be, he's got to be in the conversation at number 1. I think with these names here, I think top 4 for sure. And, yeah, I don't know if I have number 1. I think I would right now. And I'm saying this not actually being on the clock for probably, whatever, 6 months, 7 months before I'm actually drafting. But it's got to definitely be a conversation to have. So top 3, I think, is pretty easy.
I just think the hype is going to push him to number 1. I think over the off season, people are he's just going to be hyped and hyped and hyped to the point where people go, I have to take him now because, so we'll see. And I was actually thinking, is there a chance next season? It's a long shot, but could he lead the league in blocks and steals? It's probably not going to happen, but I can almost guarantee that surely that's never happened, even if we go way back.
No. No.
But he's just so long that he gets his hands in those lanes, and I don't know, could he average 3.5 blocks and 2 steals? I don't know. I mean, Anthony Davis has probably been close. I feel like he's probably averaged at least 1.5 steals per game during his career. I don't know. Anyway, that's going off on a Wemby tangent, which I tend to do.
Well, now I'm curious, and I'm going to have to go do probably some research later on StatHead and try and see how, because I don't think anybody's ever done that, but has somebody ever done like top 5 in both or top 10 in both? I think that's more realistic, and I think that's something that we'll see him do a lot. So, yeah, gosh, he's insane. All right. Will Derek White overtake Tatum in 10-cat? Not sure exactly what that 10th category would be. And does the fact that he might make Tatum someone we should consider fading in the future because of the cost. So I think, not sure what the 10th category would be here, whether it's dividing out offensive and defensive rebounds, if it's field goals made, free throws made, 3-point percentage, true shooting percentage, something else entirely. I'm not sure. But I don't think that really impacts where you would take Tatum. Like, I think he's a guy that's a first round guy, incredibly talented. His numbers are down a little bit this season, but I think that is just him playing alongside Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis and Jaylen Brown and Derek White having an awesome season. But I don't think Derek White playing well should impact how we view Jason Tatum. Just because I think that, it's got to be more the factor of adding in other guys other than Derek White that has kind of limited Tatum. So I don't know. What do you kind of think about this?
Yeah, if we're talking about fading in the future, does that, are we looking beyond this season, I suppose?
Yeah.
Because this year he was probably consensus top 6, top 7 pick, and he hasn't sort of turned out to be that good. He's still been okay, but look, I don't think Derek White overtakes him. I think Tatum might be really good down the stretch. I think he's starting to play a little bit better, so I think he's probably a first round the rest of the way. And Derek White may have peaked already this year. So I don't think he overtakes him. But in terms of fading, look, Boston are certainly, they've got a lot of talent around him. So next year, for example, he probably goes first round still, but more towards that 10, 11, the back end. Especially with Wemby. Chet could come into the first round next year as well. So, we're probably fading him a little bit, given Derek White is there, Drew Holiday's there, Porzingis is there. But I still think he's going to be the number one option on that team.
Yeah. And just, I know it's 9 cat, not 10, but Jason Tatum is 14th on Basketball Monster this season, and Derek White's 29th. I know Derek White was awesome to start the year. He's kind of been still really good, but not quite as good in the past 3 months or so. So, I don't think that he's going to overtake him. And this other one is Andrew Wiggins finally back in the stat sheet, but now he's out due to personal reasons. CP3's back. To change up the dynamics of the team a little bit. What do we think of how Wiggins is going to play when he gets back in the lineup? Hopefully just a 1-game absence, but could be a little bit longer. Is Andrew Wiggins a guy that, with all the factors considered, a guy that you're going to pick back up off the waiver wire, assuming he's there? He's there in the leagues that I drafted him because I dropped him. But what do you think?
You could pick him up. He's been on and off rosters all season, I think. Just reading through that question again, CP3. But CP3 obviously has an impact because they want him in the rotation. So that everyone's going to lose a little bit here. Not a direct impact on Wiggins, but I also think Kuminga is playing so well that his role is going to stick, whereas previously it's been, we'll play Kuminga until Wiggins hits form and then we'll move Wiggins into a larger role. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. So, if Wiggins, when he comes back, I don't know why he's out. We know it's personal, but we don't know what that reason specifically is and whether this is, he was out for personal reasons last year and he missed 2 months or something. I think if he's there when he's back, if you want to grab him and just see what he does, that would be fine. Yeah.
I'm not super excited about him, and it is just a lot to do with me being really high on him to start the season and then it going it couldn't have gone much worse than it did. So I'm not going to be the one to pick him back up.
So I've pulled up Anthony Davis's stats.
Okay.
just because I needed clarity in my head. So his best season for steals was the 2018-19 season. He had 1.6 steals and 2.4 blocks. Not sure exactly where he placed in that season in terms of leading steals. He wouldn't have been first, though. I can tell you that. because Steph Curry had 1.6 that season as well.
Yeah.
Chris Paul had 1.7. Jimmy Butler had 2. Oladipo had 2.3. DeMarcus Cousins 1.7. So anyway, we're not on a nostalgia trip, but he might have been top 10.
So now while you were doing that, now I had to look real quick. The players that have averaged at least 2 steals and 2 blocks in a game. David Robinson did it once. Hakeem Olajuwon did it 5 times.
Wow.
Gerald Wallace did it once. That was the most recent one in 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And Bobby Jones did it once in 1976, 1977 season. But looking at it, I think the most realistic chance would have been Hakeem Olajuwon, 88-89, had 2.6 steals and 3.4 blocks per game.
Ooh.
However,
Wow.
that would have been Michael Jordan right there. And a number of other guys could have averaged more than 2.6 steals, or somebody could have averaged more than 3.4 blocks. So
yeah, I
think that's probably the best, because Gerald Wallace had 2.5 steals and 2.1 blocks in 2005, 2006. But there's no way that 2.1 was the league leader for blocks that season. So
no, block numbers were a lot higher back in 20, 30, 40 years ago, because people weren't shooting 33 pointers a game. They were only shooting 8.
Exactly. So anyways, yeah, we should probably get back to some of the questions, but that was, do you consider Clint Capella to be must roster in 12-team 9-cat leagues for the rest of this season?
Yeah, I think so. He's not the player he used to be, but I think certainly while Okongwu is out, I still don't think Capella looks 100%. So I think maybe they rushed him back or got him back in the lineup because Okongwu was out.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's probably still a must roster, at least for now. And then we'll see when Okongwu comes back. They might just minute split and play 24 each, or Okongwu might play 26. So for now, yes, ask that question again in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and maybe he's a drop.
Yeah, he's still on a minutes restriction right now, and I think they just literally needed a center out there, so they weren't having to run Bruno Fernando for 36 minutes a game and then Jalen Johnson at center the other 12 or whatever they would have to do. So Capella's minutes will go up regardless of when Okongwu returns. So yeah, I think he hasn't played very well. It's kind of been like a pretty bad season for him. Not necessarily statistically, because he's still top 100 in fantasy, which is pretty low for his standards for a traditional center stats kind of guy. But yeah, I wouldn't be dropping him quite yet.
No.
Out of these 5, which 2 would you drop? Asar Thompson, Jeremy Sohan, Cam Johnson, Lou Dort, and Corey Kispert.
Dort. And I don't know. My immediate reaction is Kispert. Cam Johnson hasn't been very good. But if Cam Thomas misses time, because he hurt his ankle, I think, last night.
Yeah.
If he misses time, it's not Cam Johnson. Yeah, I don't know. Initial reaction is Dort and Kispert.
See, mine was going to be Dort and then either Cam Johnson or Jeremy Sohan. But now Cam Johnson has just been, like you said, like disappointing. But like we know that he can play well. Like we've seen it. Definitely Dort. That's the consensus here.
Yes.
But I think maybe it is Sohan for me.
Yeah. Look, and it could be. I could certainly. Yeah, I think it could be. It could be Sohan. I just feel like he has those games or a week where he'll put up top 70 value.
That's
and
fair.
Then he falls off to be top 160, where I think Kispert just floats along at 120, 130 because he doesn't really do anything other than points and threes. But Sohan can randomly have a game where he has 18 points, 11 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 threes. So that would be the only difference for me. I think Sohan can give you more in multiple categories.
Yeah, that's fair. So the consensus is drop Dort, keep Asar, and then flip a coin, or not flip a coin, but draw straws out of a hat. I don't know exactly what you do with
depends
3.
what you need a little bit. Like if you're in a roto league, points league, maybe it's Sohan because Kispert can be a 20 point scorer. So it depends a little bit on your league and what stats you need.
Is Taylor Hendricks a player to stash for 12-team 9-cat just to have ready for silly season? I would say that you may not even consider him a stash, that he'd just be a guy to kind of pick up right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Standard leagues, if you can stash him, then I probably would. If you're in a slightly deeper league, it's 12 teams. So 12 team, if you're up the top of your standings and you can afford to just deal with the ups and downs over the next couple of weeks. But I think they've made it clear that they want him out there playing a big role. So, in 2 weeks' time, I don't think he's going to come out and be top 70 or anything like that, but he could certainly be putting up 12-team value.
Yeah, and he started their last 2 games, so I would assume he starts the rest of the way, which is exciting considering he didn't play much the first, 4 months of the season. So who would you prefer in 9-cat, regardless of – we're turning injuries off for this one. Scoot Henderson or Keontae George for the rest of the season?
It's pretty close. I think I'd probably go Keontae just. But again, it might come down to what you need because I think Scoot probably scores more. He'll get you, I think, more points and potentially assists are probably close. Keontae George probably gets you a little bit more on the defensive end. So if you need points, Scoot. If you need defensive stuff, Keontae. It's pretty close though. I think they're both should be rostered.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I think if I just had to choose one, I would choose Scoot. And excited for him to finally be able to just start, be healthy, and the rest of the way just kind of be the guy in Portland when they hard tank. So excited to see what he can do with that. It's going to be, both of them are going to shoot a pretty bad percentage, I think, but should be exciting to see both of them as kind of both teams seem like they're going to tank. So who would you stream? Are you going to look at Pajemski or Cam Johnson? I don't know. Which one are you looking at?
So who would you drop for a stream spot? So
who did you drop for a stream spot?
So we're dropping Johnson or Pods. It's again, as I said, if Cam Thomas misses time and the Nets have a lot of games in the next 2 weeks, they have 5 games next week. That's not to say Cam Johnson plays in all 5, because he has had injuries as well. But Chris Paul is also back today, I believe. So he's probably going to impact Pods a little bit. It's probably Pods just based on the schedule. The Nets have another 8 games over the next 2 weeks. So, it's probably Pods, I think.
Yeah, because I guess, they have 8 more games. And then Golden State has 7 total over like this week and next week. So, I think that's a good way to look at it, to drop Pajemski here and keep Cam Johnson around. Do we think OG will be back before week 20? They said they're hoping that he's back on the court in 2 to 3 weeks, which would be pretty much like no. Like I don't think he will be unless it's like best case scenario there is that he is ready for the start of week 20. But I don't know. We'll have to see there because it's 2 to 3 weeks. So it either is yes, he's ready, or no, he doesn't play till the next week, or somewhere in the middle there. So
and I think it probably depends a little bit as well on Julius Randle. Like if he comes back in sooner than that and the Knicks are still winning and still doing what they need to be doing, then they'll probably just ease back a little bit on getting OG back. Because, when he comes back, he's going to play 36 minutes. So there's going to be no ramp up. There never is with Tibbs. So he's before week 20, I doubt it.
Yeah. Is Royce O'Neal going to hold value for the foreseeable future? Would TJ McConnell be worth dropping to add Royce O'Neal? I think off the top of my head real quick, I think McConnell would be worth dropping now that Halliburton's healthy, Andrew Nimhard's there. McConnell's coming off the bench. But as far as Royce O'Neal holding value, I think that there's a chance. So for example, their last game, he had 20 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, a block, and 6 threes. I don't think he's going to be that productive. But if he's continuing to start, I mean, he can get hot and knock down a handful of threes. So I think, I don't know, I think I actually would do this, even though they don't play again until Thursday. They still have 3 more games this week.
It's a close one, I think. I think O'Neal probably plays more minutes. And yeah, I mean, we've seen even last season with the Nets, he has the ability to fill up the box score, so he can do something in every category. Whereas McConnell is really just assists and steals. That's it. Royce O'Neal can hurt your percentages, though. He's not great from the field or the free throw line. Mm-hmm. So you take a bit of a hit there, but you get your counting stats. So I think I'd consider it if you can, if that's what you need. If you don't really need McConnell's assists and steals, then I think Royce will get you a little bit more across the board.
Yeah. Are any of the following worth a drop to activate Aaron Nesmith? Is it Denny Avdija, Keontae George, or DeAndre Hunter? Would you drop any of those guys? And if so, which one? Because looking at it, I don't think that there's a clear, easy drop here.
No, I don't think Nesmith's still out, isn't he? Oh, is he questionable? Oh, he's questionable tonight. Okay. Would I drop any of those guys? I don't know. They're probably all in the same bucket, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Keontae George. I still think Hunter's going to have a pretty good role. If you don't need points, you could drop DeAndre Hunter because that's all he's going to give you, points and threes. Yeah. In terms of the rest of them, I think they're probably all worth holding. So, yeah. But again, depending on your league settings, just because Nesmith, if he does play tonight, it doesn't mean you need to activate him because we've got 11 games tonight. So if you can leave him in your IR spot and maybe Keontae George hurts his ankle or DeAndre Hunter hurts his wrist or something. So just because Nesmith is available, I wouldn't necessarily, if he's available, I wouldn't necessarily activate him tonight. Leave him in your IR spot and see what happens.
Yeah. All right. And I think that's going to do it for this episode just because we're kind of out of time here. Did want to really quickly get your thoughts because Terry Rozier is playing tonight and Tyler Hero has been ruled out. So how are we feeling? Because Terry Rozier and Jimmy Butler are returning. How do we feel about Duncan Robinson tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly impacts him. I think he could probably still be streamed in, but with 11 games, is he in your best? That team that I picked him up in for yesterday, I'm probably going to go and drop him now because I'm not going to have him active tonight anyway. And Tyler Hero could come back for their next game. So I think he's still someone to consider streaming in for tonight, but he certainly moves down the pecking order with both Jimmy and Rozier back.
Yeah. And Kingy, do you have anything fun or exciting coming up that we should be on the lookout for over the next couple of weeks?
Nothing specific, just our usual. We've got our show on Monday afternoons that we do. We'll have our Thursday night all Australian podcast that we do with Matty G from Insight Fantasy, and we roll through the guests. I don't know who we've got on this week. I haven't thought that far ahead. And yeah, other than that, I think it's just usual Twitter stuff, getting ready for the fantasy playoffs. And as I said, even looking ahead to next season because I'm annoyed.
Well, be on the lookout because those redraft rankings are coming much earlier than anybody else, but should be a lot of fun. So be sure to give Kingy a follow at AdamKing91 on Twitter if you want to follow me as well at NoRubin22. But that's going to do it for this week's Q&A. We will be back next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time for any more fantasy hoops questions, or if you want to give us any more trivia stuff to look up when it comes to stats, so we can just, spend half the time talking about that. We will be down to do that as well. But Kingy, thanks for joining me, and everyone else, thanks for tuning in once again.